Hello and welcome to Quick Bites, where we talk about firefighter nutrition in 10 minutes or less. And my name is Megan Lautz. I'm a registered dietitian that specializes in first responders. Today, we're talking about sleep, which you might be like, okay, why is the dietitian talking about sleep? Well, because who else is going to talk to you guys about sleep, right? Usually you're not getting this from health professionals. So big thing with sleep and first responders. In a study of over 7,000 firefighters, they found that 37% had a sleeping disorder. And 80% of those people who had the sleeping disorder had no awareness of that disorder at all. So these are things like sleep apnea, insomnia, restless leg. And there are some pretty big consequences to sleep deprivation, specifically that can impact your food choices, right? We see reduced immunity, no bueno, especially as COVID starts picking back up or just flu season comes around, right? We see a reduction in metabolism slightly. It's really not too much to write home about. But 3 to 5%, nobody really wants to see that decrease in their metabolism. But usually it's not the metabolism that's really the issue. It's the fact that when you're freaking tired and you're freaking cranky, you make bad food choices, right? And then you start to rely on caffeine. We actually see a significant impact in appetite, about a 24% increase in hunger with just one day of bad sleep, which you're probably like, I get like 3 of those, 8 of those a month, maybe, right? We see an 18% reduction in leptin, which is an appetite suppressant hormone. And then we see a 28% increase in ghrelin, which is an appetite stimulating hormone. So your hormones get all jacked out of whack, and it can lead to 24% increase in hunger. So we also see a reduction in glucose tolerance, which is a concern, especially if you have prediabetes or type 2 diabetes, that insulin resistance can start to kind of build and become a concern with sleep deprivation. Now, of course, this is hard, right? Like your job sometimes does require you to stay up late at night, and it can lead to your sleep being worse when you're off shift. But keep in mind, like I said, 37% of firefighters have a sleeping disorder. When do I see this? Usually by the time someone is between 7 to 15 years on the fire service, on shift work, is when these sleeping disorders start to pick up, right? Or at least, and this is me saying this anecdotally, working one-on-one with 15 to 20 people a week for years. I also see this if a firefighter comes into me and they say, my sleep has been between 5 to 6 hours or less for years, that's a big indicator to me that they might need to get that checked out, especially if they're starting to tell me they have trouble controlling appetite, or their energy level sucks. Diet can improve your energy. We talk about that in energy boosters, either before or after this lecture. But sleep is really key, right? Like if your sleep sucks all the time, we got to get this fixed first. So there are some strategies that you can do at home, on and off duty to help. Specifically, this is for off duty, trying to get a consistent sleep and wake time, trying to wake up every day at 5 a.m. or 7 a.m. and not sleeping in. Now, if you didn't sleep at all the day before, sleep in. You can improve sleep debt a little bit. But in general, like if you're on vacation, try to get a little more consistent with that sleep wake time, or if you have those long 4 days off or how many days off you have. Big thing that you need to consider is cutting back on caffeine, nicotine, and alcohol within 5 to 6 hours of sleep. Because these products, even though you can go to bed with a cup of coffee or alcohol just makes you sleepier, they might not prevent you from falling asleep, but what they will do is impact your sleep cycles. You spend less time in deep sleep, you spend less time in rapid eye movement sleep, and then it ends up with you waking up the next day feeling like garbage, reaching for more of caffeine, right? So one thing that can help is trying a tracker like Fitbit, Apple Watch, Oura Ring, Whoop, understanding though that these are not perfect products, but it can be motivating for you to slowly see your sleep get longer, the quality improve. For a lot of us, once we get over the age of like 25, you can also see, like if you had a couple extra drinks the night before, you can actually see if that impacted your sleep. I know for me, if I have a drink or two, before around bedtime, my sleep when I look at the sleep the next day, my deep sleep is significantly shortened, and no wonder I feel like crap, right? So try and cut back on those things prior to. Other things about sleep is the sleep environment does make a difference. If you haven't bought blackout shades or those like kind of accordion blind things, it is time. That can make a huge difference, especially on shift work where if you need to take a nap in the middle of the day, go for it. Earplugs, personally, I wear earplugs every night, and that just because I have dogs, and if they decide to chew on their leg in the middle of the night, it's not going to wake me up, right? It can help with ambient noise. The other thing to pay attention to is the screens that you're looking at. And realistically, like I know for me, like you're going to have to pry this cell phone out of my cold, dead hands. I want to watch the TikToks before I go to bed. Maybe eventually I will be an adult and stop doing that. But if you're the type of person who actually likes to look at their screen at night, the concern is the blue light can actually reduce your body's production of melatonin. And melatonin production goes down with blue light. And there's a quick fix for that, or a relative fix for that. And that is going to your screen brightness settings and shifting it to either, it's called night shift, I think, on iPhone. And then I forget what it's called on Android. But basically what it will do is will shift the color. It will put a blue light filter over your screen and shift it from more of a blue hue to an orange hue. It's a little bit of an adjustment, but it can help potentially with improving your sleep if you are going to use those screens before bed. Now, if you're struggling with sleep and you know it's crap, right? You want to get some data before you go to a specialist. So there is a sleep diary from the Sleep Foundation. If you Google Sleep Foundation diary, it'll pop up as a PDF. You can print this off. And it just asks for some information. The time did you go to bed? How did you feel? How do you feel the next day? That way, if you do a sleep consult with a sleep professional, you have a little bit of data for them to say, hey, this is what it's looking at right now. A lot of times when you do a sleep consult, they will want you to do some form of sleep study. Sleep studies now don't always mean you go to a lab, which I think a lot of people are like, oh, well, I'm just going to have to go to a lab and do this sleep study. During COVID, they ended up having to make some adjustments to the technology. And sometimes, depending on what your condition is, they might be able to do this at home. They hook you up with like a little heart rate monitor and a strap on your chest, and they get some data that way. So that is a way that you can, one, decide, hey, I need to go see a specialist, or here's some more data for the specialist, right? Now, sleep strategies, right? Whether it's on or off shift, naps count. Naps count towards that 7 to 9 hours of sleep per day that we recommend. And there are two strategies recommended for this. It's either a 20-minute nap or a 90-minute nap. And 20 minutes is more of a brain break. You're taking a second to do some breathing, trying to focus, basically kind of meditating without like being all fancy with it. And you're shutting off your eyes and you're trying to relax. But you're not falling into those deeper phases of sleep within 20 minutes. Those deeper phases of sleep, like rapid eye movement, deep sleep, are primarily going to be during those 90-minute longer sleep cycles. Now, you can do an hour and a half or a 90-minute nap, or you can try and plan out your sleep in these 90-minute cycles of an hour and a half, 3 hours, 4.5, 6 hours, 7.5, etc. Research does show, though, for like optimum recovery, you need at least 5 to 6 hours of uninterrupted sleep for your brain to get that real rest and actually recover. And then also your muscles. Keep in mind that helps your muscles. Now, you might see that there's a 20-minute nap with 200 milligrams of caffeine on this screen, and that is called a nappuccino or a calf nap. And you might say, well, Megan, I thought you said don't do caffeine before sleeping. When you're doing a 20-minute nap, it takes about 20 minutes for caffeine to fully get into your system. And about 100 to 200 milligrams, like a 12-ounce coffee, and then going down to take a little brain break might give you a little pep in your step you need to get through the rest of your shift or get through, daddy or mommy daycare, whatever else you have going on that day when you don't have time for an hour and a half nap, right? With the on-duty sleep piece, here's the thing. I can't control this, right? Your officer is going to be who's in charge of this. And officers, I implore you to read Should Public Safety Be Able to Nap, which is an article that discusses the safety that napping, of course, within reasonable amounts and if possible on shift, can lead to fewer lapses in performance. It helps with sleepiness and fatigue. We see a reduction in caffeine intake. We see better shift recovery after that shift. And we also see reduction in anxiety and burnout in our employees. So this is something to seriously consider for departments and for officers. Sometimes they call them safety naps or operational readiness naps. A lot of the county or a lot of the stations in Fairfax, if they know they're going to be up past midnight, they incorporate this into their day because they know it's going to help them recover and also provide that optimal customer service for those evening calls. All right. So the last big thing that if your sleep isn't so great and you wanted to try something to see if it would improve it, tart cherry juice is a food. It's not a supplement. And it is specifically high in polyphenols or antioxidants that can help with inflammation. And it may actually improve not only muscle recovery. So if you're having trouble with muscle soreness or you're just getting old and everything hurts and you're sore all the time, polyphenols can help with that. It can also help with sleep. Now, it's not horribly tart. Like it's still pretty sweet. It's just like a tartar pomegranate juice, maybe, which also works. Pomegranate juice can work, but there's not as much evidence as tart cherry juice. Now you can find this in roughly a liter bottle. They're small. In like the cranberry juice aisle, it's usually harder to find because there's a million cranberry juices and only one little baby tart cherry juice thing. Now, the juice, you're looking at 8 to 12 ounces in the morning and in the evening, which is a lot. So there is a brand called Cherubundi that sells tart cherry juice concentrate, which is in an ounce packet. And you can have that once in the morning, once in the evening. And there is some evidence that it does significantly help with sleep. And I have had clients that really like it. So something to consider if you're having trouble with muscle soreness or getting to sleep. Now, summary. Sleep is essential. It's essential to your mental health. It's essential to your energy levels. If your energy is garbage, we've got to look at your sleep. We've got to look at the quality. We've got to look at the quantity. It's essential for fat loss, right? Like if you're really struggling with fat loss and appetite, sleep might be another thing that we need to look at. And then just overall performance, right? Keep in mind that naps do count. That can help you get to that better quality, better quantity sleep. And then also tart cherry juice might help with that sleep and give you a little bit of a bonus for muscle soreness. And it's not technically a supplement. It's just a fancy food, right? If you have questions, shoot me an email. My name's Megan, Megan at RescueRD. And then if you want to follow me on Instagrams, Facebook, TikToks at rescue.rd. And I'll see you next time.